Chapter 4: The Search for a Man. The 5th of February 2019. Two jobs had my attention. The others could either be accessed online or later in the week, or into next week. I thought it would be a good idea to spend 2 days on the Rochdale job before travelling up to West Cumbria on the Green case. I booked into a hotel near Wigton on the Thursday night. According to the map and an internet search, it's a small market town, about 5 to 10 miles from the village of Prospect. On the birth certificate it simply mentions a home birth in 1929. The address is given, but it is unlikely that I can reveal anything at the actual house or the farm itself. But it is a starting point. Cover every point and never turn your back on any possibility, even more so when someone's paying for your hotel. I'll take the van to Rochdale today, the trusty van. The old bugger's been a good servant to me. I've lost count of the amount of nights I've lost sleep on his floor. A sleeping bag and a mattress thinner than a wafer is not conducive to a good night's rest, I suppose, but I was never in it to rest anyway. Anonymity of the van was very important, as anonymity to me. All white, no adverts, no garage contacts, the registration plate with serial numbers covered, no additional features or add-ons. Everything factory fitted, no stickers. Keep clean to avoid any scamp adding their own dirty finger graffiti. I could not compromise myself and risk driving around in a van that can be considered recognisable with "Wash Me Now" scar on the back. Never leave it or park it in the same place for more than 2 hours either. Any more than that and it seems to draw attention. My destination this morning is Drake Street. I have photos and timings. She has already done a lot of my work for me. Watch him in, back at 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. to watch where he goes for lunch and with whom. After that, kill a few hours and back for 4 p.m. and follow him home wherever he goes. Voicemail from Mrs. Fitzgerald at 10:15 a.m. Mr. F has a purple lunchbox apparently. Well, he shouldn't be too hard to spot on the way to work. Meanwhile, I've been thinking about Mr. Green. Who is he? What is his relationship with Mr. Grimshaw? The man is 90. Maybe a son-in-law, maybe? Grandson? What is he so keen to find? And why is he prepared to find out about someone he seems to have no connection with? Has he got the money? I suppose an element of this job is based on trust. Work first, pay later. That is the way it's always been, and to be fair, in all these years, I have yet to have an unpaid invoice. Instinct again. He seems genuine, he seems articulate, and I have his address and details should I ever need to seek him out, which I don't think I will need to do. I've been on the hunt for missing people for a while now, but I normally have more to go on. A birth certificate, pre-NHS, is always harder to unravel. Records are usually incomplete or sporadic, and the authenticity is often questionable. The benefits of the smaller communities are the other sources of information that are available. Local pub competition winners, community clubs, or working men's institutes, not to mention church records, employment histories, and in the case of farms, animal ownership records. Plenty to go at, but this is for later. Rochdale, here I come. 10:30 p.m. A last diary entry of the day. I've been at this job long enough now to realise that every observation could be the last one that cracks the case, but there seemed to be little of interest today, all very routine. If he is having an affair, he wasn't at it today, or if he was, it was through texting or emailing. He certainly didn't meet anybody to arouse suspicion, or anything else. I know I'm on the meter for this job. Mrs. Fitzgerald isn't made of money, and the surveillance can only last so long. I need to choose my lookouts carefully. Although vital, I doubt Mrs. F would be too happy to rack up a bill without any kind of news, and that is exactly what we seem to have today. He was easily identified on the way in. The purple lunchbox was very noticeable, and her photos and descriptions were very clear too. I know my man, tall but not confident in his own body, walks with a stoop, a nervous, shy-looking man. He opened the door to let somebody in, and ended up letting 8 more in without the slightest look of incredulity. Non-confrontational, non-aggressive. Only 2 seemed to acknowledge and thank him. What was the choice of purple lunchbox his? Does it add colour to his life? Does it make him stand out? His work clothes didn't stand out either. Smart in a suit, but not worn with any formal power trip. He was just a middle-aged man in an averagely paid job in a drab town. I almost felt sorry for him. And then there is the job. I returned to watch and follow at lunchtime, but this proved to be futile in the main. I even had to pay for a car park ticket. He sat and ate lunch on a park bench near the river. He didn't use his phone once. He just sat there, staring, eating, staring. I could note down exactly what he ate, but that would be a waste of ink, and won't help me solve anything anyway. Although it did remind me to pick up some cheese on the way home. At the end of the day, he left on time with 3 other men. I thought it had the makings of an evening drinking session. I hoped not, as I wanted to get home. But thankfully the 4 soon went their separate ways, and Mr. Fitzgerald simply boarded the bus home, and off he went. Following a bus is never as straightforward as you might think. So many stops and starts, and trying to work out who has got on and off, and who is sat with whom. But it soon became apparent that there was nothing unusual to see here either. I sat about 50 metres back from the house. He got off the bus, walked the short distance to the front door, took out his key and went inside. He was even on time. The only noticeable difference was the lunchbox. He didn't have it with him. I presumed he just left it at work. Still, he won't be hard to spot tomorrow. Average height, average dresser, average looks, and average daily routine. In this job you were always on the lookout for little differences. Everyone seemed to have them. This chap doesn't seem to be the secretive or aloof type. His routine is just, well, routine. It will be easy to spot even the slightest change in his behaviour, thus making him the easiest man in the world to follow. Good night, Mr. Diary. Not exactly an eventful day. Bed beckons. 6th of February 2019. Day 2 in Rochdale. By the time my surveillance ends, I will have spent more time in Rochdale than I did in Munich. I know where I'd rather be. But this pays the bills. It certainly grounds you, this job. Rochdale. Tower blocks and tarts, chavs and charity shops. In recent years the town has been in the news for all the wrong reasons, but, if I'm honest, I cannot see much good news coming out of the place. Grey skies hang over the town, forming part of its DNA. It is hard to cope when you have no hope, as my father used to say. Well, there isn't much in the way of hope here, and it doesn't seem to be much hope. I don't seem to have much hope finding Mr. Fitzgerald's Achilles heel either. The man is as bland as a magnolia paint. Perhaps I'm being too harsh on the place and him. Nowhere looks great in the drizzle, and maybe I have let Mrs. Fitzgerald's suspicions about her husband taint my own views. It hasn't taken the cynic in me long to return to the surface, but I must try and suppress it. Who am I to judge anyone? I'm here to do a job. Mr. F's journey to work was pretty much the same as yesterday, other than the fact he did not leave the building for lunch. The purple lunchbox must have been left at work the previous day, as he had it in his hand on his way home. It comes to something when spotting a purple lunchbox is the highlight of the day's surveillance. He left work on time, he boarded the same bus home as the day before, and he entered the house at pretty much the same time as yesterday too. I don't really want to waste my time, and her money, repeating the exercise Thursday-Friday. I will contact her when I return home to see where we go from here. I need to get up to Cumbria, but I hate having to leave loose ends. Something is not quite right about this one. 9 p.m. Spoke briefly with Mrs. F. We agreed to follow Saturday afternoon and evening. She is away at her sister's place in Wigan, and she feels he might just take advantage of her absence then. She doesn't want to give up, and she's convinced that her suspicions are correct. She is also aware of a budget and does not want to exceed the amount discussed. I can understand that, especially when all the work carried out so far has revealed nothing of note. For her to take this step in the first place is a brave move, and I'm always honest with the client. Even if I think I'm just chasing shadows, I won't milk it. We agreed to go for Saturday and review everything on Sunday evening. If we are no further forward by then, I will suggest closure on the case. For her sake, I hope we get to the bottom of this, good or bad. If I do not unearth anything, she will have to choose an alternative approach. There are no guarantees in this job, and she understands that. I don't like to leave a job incomplete, but as nice as she is, this is my job. I need to remain professional throughout, emotionless if I can. A trip up to Cumbria beckons tomorrow, a nice change and a new case.